Elena's screams woke me up at 2:47 a.m. I jumped out of bed, my heart racing. She was 8 months pregnant and in labor. The baby was coming. I found her on the hallway floor, crying and holding her stomach. "Please help me," she begged. "I need to get out." I ran to the front door and pulled hard. I tried the back door. Also locked. Miriam Cade locked every door from the outside every single night. The windows had metal bars. We were trapped like animals in a cage. Elena screamed again. The baby wasn't waiting. I grabbed a wooden chair and threw it at the basement window. Glass flew everywhere. My hands were bleeding, but I didn't care. I helped Elena climb through the broken window. The ambulance came 7 minutes later. When I turned around, Miriam was standing there in her nightgown. She had her keys hanging from her belt and a notebook in her hands. Her face showed no emotion at all. "Everyone will pay for that broken window," she said in a cold voice. "I'll take it from your deposits." 6 o'clock in the morning. We were all exhausted. Miriam called us to a meeting in the cold common room. All 8 of us came downstairs, scared and tired. She showed us photos of the broken window. "This is property damage," she said. "It costs $1,200 to fix. You'll all pay $150 each. I want the money by Friday." I stood up. My hands were still bandaged from the glass. "I saved a woman's life last night." Miriam smiled, but her eyes were ice cold. "You broke my window without asking me first. Every action has a price, Marcus." She looked at her notebook. "Elena left without finishing her lease. That's against the rules. She owes me $800. I want it by Friday, or I'll send debt collectors to the hospital where she's having her baby." Nobody said anything. We were all too shocked. Miriam shook her keys. They made a jingling sound that I hated. "New rule. Tonight I lock the doors at 8 p.m., not 9 p.m. Every time someone breaks a rule, I lock the doors earlier. Don't test me." That week I learned everyone's sad story. Yuki was 72 years old. She washed dishes in freezing cold water because Miriam turned off her hot water 3 weeks ago. Miriam said there was mold in Yuki's bathroom, but I never saw any mold. Yuki's hands were red and cracked from the cold water. Samuel worked at a warehouse, sometimes 16 hours a day. Every night he counted coins to buy medicine for his little daughter. She had bad asthma. Samuel ate only rice and cheap canned food. He was getting thinner every week. Priya had purple bruises on her arms. She ran away from her violent husband. She couldn't leave this place because Miriam took her passport. Miriam said she was keeping it safe, but really she was keeping Priya trapped. We all tried to escape before, but Miriam made it impossible. She charged huge fees to break the lease. She kept our deposits. She threatened to call the police with fake complaints. Some of us had criminal records. Some had visa problems. Some just had no money and nowhere else to go. At night, I heard Miriam walking in the hallway. Her shadow stopped at each door. She was watching us, learning our fears. Samuel decided to fight back. He needed his papers. His ID, his work visa, his daughter's medical records. Miriam locked everything in her office. On Tuesday morning, he knocked on her door. I stayed in the hallway, pretending to check my mailbox, but really listening. "I need my documents back," Samuel said. Miriam didn't even look at him. "You owe me $340. "What?" "I paid my rent on time." She opened a big notebook full of writing. November 3rd, you came home at 10:17 p.m. Quiet time starts at 10. That's a $50 fine. November 8th, you used the kitchen after midnight. Another $50. November 12th. This is crazy, Samuel said. Miriam closed her notebook. Pay your fines first. Then we'll talk about your papers. She smiled like a snake. Next person. Samuel walked away. He looked defeated. As he passed me, I looked into Miriam's office. Metal cabinets covered every wall. One cabinet had a label. Insurance claims. Tenant injuries. It was stuffed with files. So many files. Priya found a cardboard box in the basement. It was full of men's clothes, old photos, and a worn Bible. Someone's things left behind. She brought the Bible upstairs and showed me. Inside was a name. James Whalen. Who's that? Yes. A man who lived here before us. He left 3 months ago. Priya looked confused. But why are his things still here? His mail keeps coming too. We asked Miriam about him that night. Her face turned hard as stone. James Whalen broke his lease. When you break the rules, you lose everything. That's how it works. She stepped closer to Priya. Her voice became threatening. Touch his things again, and the same thing will happen to you. Do you understand me? That night, Priya knocked on my door. She was shaking. She showed me a piece of paper hidden inside James Whalen's Bible. The handwriting looked shaky and scared. She knows people. Don't fight her. Just run. We stared at each other. But we didn't run. We had nowhere to run to. 3 of us put all our money together. $180. We hired a lawyer named Rebecca Torres. She helped poor people for cheap. She came on Thursday and talked to us for 2 hours. She took lots of notes. This is illegal. I'll help you fight this in court. For the first time in months, I felt hope. 2 days later, Rebecca called me. She was whispering, Marcus, I'm so sorry. I can't help you anymore. I have to quit your case. Why? What happened? I just can't. Please don't call me again. She hung up fast. On Monday, I saw Rebecca's silver car outside Miriam's office. Through the window, I watched Miriam push a brown folder across her desk. Rebecca opened it and her face turned white. She looked terrified. She left without taking the folder. That night, Miriam gathered all of us. New rule. If anyone calls lawyers or government people without asking me first, I'll report you for fraud. I have files on all of you. Very detailed files. Her smile made my blood run cold. Winter came. Got freezing cold. One Tuesday night the heat stopped working. Miriam put up a notice. The heating system is broken. Repairs will take 2 or 3 weeks. Wear warm clothes. We wore our coats inside. Yuki's cold got worse. She couldn't stop coughing. Samuel's little daughter visited and coughed all night in his freezing room. I used to work in construction, so I know about heating systems. I went down to the basement to check. It was dark and cold like a grave. The heating system wasn't broken at all. Someone just turned it off. The boiler room had a big padlock on the door. Only Miriam had the key. I found her the next morning. The heat isn't broken. You just turned it off. She smiled. Really? Maybe you should call the city and complain. She moved closer to my face. Let's see who they believe. Me, a landlady with 30 years of perfect records. Or you, tenants with criminal records, visa problems, and lots of debt. She knew every secret about every one of us. All our weak spots. All our fears. I walked away. What else could I do? Friday night, we all met secretly in Samuel's room. Everyone except Yuki. She was too sick. We should all leave together, I said. Break the leases. Forget the deposits. Just run away. Priya shook her head. I have nowhere to go. My ex-husband will find me if I'm not here. Samuel looked at his hands. I can't pay for a new apartment. First month, last month deposit. I don't have that money. I'm saving everything for my daughter's medicine. Another tenant, David, spoke quietly. I'm on parole. If I break my lease, I go back to prison. The room went quiet. We all understood now. Miriam didn't just pick any people. She picked people who were already trapped. People who couldn't fight back. People who had to stay no matter what. We were like farm animals to her. Trapped and making her money. Someone knocked on the door. Miriam's voice came through. Secret meeting? That's a $50 fine for each person. Pay by Friday. She was listening the whole time. A new tenant came on Monday morning. I was leaving for work when I saw him at the front desk. He was old, maybe late 60s. He had kind eyes and an old wool coat. He carried one beat-up suitcase. I want your worst room, he told Miriam. The one nobody wants. Miriam's eyes lit up like she saw money. The attic room. The ceiling leaks. No heat. Very cold. $600 for 1 month. Perfect. He counted out cash without arguing. While Miriam counted the money, the old man looked around the house carefully. He saw the locked doors. He saw how scared we all looked. He saw how we jumped when Miriam talked. That night at 8 o'clock, Miriam locked all the doors like always. I heard that clicking sound I hated so much. I looked up at the attic. Light came from under the new tenant's door. But he didn't try to open the door like we all did the first time. He just accepted it. I heard nothing from his room but silence. Miriam didn't waste time. On the new tenant's third day, she barged into his attic room. I was in the hallway and heard everything. Mr. Ashford, she announced loudly, I found many violations in your room. Wrong use of electrical outlets. Wrong furniture placement. Too much water use. You owe me $75 in fines. I expected him to get scared or angry like the rest of us. Instead, Mr. Ashford's calm voice said, Can you show me where it says that in the lease? Silence. Then Miriam's sharp voice. What did you say? The lease. I want to see the exact words that say I owe these charges. His voice stayed gentle and polite. I'll wait while you get it. More silence. Then I heard Miriam's footsteps going down the stairs. She was walking fast. Mr. Ashford came out into the hallway. He nodded at me politely. But something about his eyes surprised me. Those weren't the eyes of a weak old man. Later that night he knocked on my door. You're Marcus, right? How long has she been locking the doors at night? His voice was still gentle. But now I heard something else in it. Something strong. For 3 days, Mr. Ashford talked quietly with each tenant. He didn't promise to help us. He just asked questions in his kind, patient way. When did this start? Do you have any papers or proof? Did anyone call the police or government? He listened carefully to everything we said. Sometimes he wrote notes in an old leather notebook. Priya showed him the note from James Whalen's Bible. Mr. Ashford looked at it for a long time. Then he wrote something in his notebook. Yuki told him about her stolen hot water. She showed him the wedding ring she wore on a chain around her neck. It was the only thing she had left from her dead husband. Samuel explained the fake fines, the stolen documents, the impossible debts. For the first time in months, I felt like someone actually cared. Someone was finally listening. On Thursday afternoon, Mr. Ashford walked to the payphone down the street. He talked for 15 minutes. His back was turned. I couldn't hear what he said. When he came back, his face showed nothing. But that night I heard him moving around upstairs. He was still awake at midnight. Friday morning, Yuki's wedding ring disappeared. She searched everywhere in her room, crying and frantic. The ring was on the chain around her neck when she went to sleep. She never took it off. Never. Miriam appeared in Yuki's doorway while we were helping her look. Looking for this. She held up the gold ring. How did you get that? Yuki's voice broke. I found it in the bathroom. You're so careless. Miriam put the ring in her pocket. I'll keep it safe in my office until you pay all your fines. Can't have you losing valuable things. Yuki fell onto her bed, sobbing. That ring was all she had left from 43 years of marriage. Her whole life. Miriam just watched her cry. No emotion on her face at all. Then she left. Mr. Ashford was standing in the hallway. He saw everything. His jaw got tight the first time I saw him look angry. He went back to his room. I saw him writing in his notebook. From where I stood, I could only see 3 words. Personal property theft. Samuel came home Thursday night with $400 in cash. He worked double shifts for 2 weeks to earn that money. It was for his daughter's asthma medicine. She needed a new emergency inhaler. Miriam stopped him in the common room. Several of us were sitting there. Samuel, I need to check if this money is legal. She made him stand in front of everyone while she counted each dollar bill slowly. She made little comments the whole time. Where did you get this $20 bill? And this one? You work construction, right? How do I know you didn't steal this money? Or maybe you're doing illegal work. Samuel's face turned red. He was so ashamed and angry. This good man, working so hard, being treated like a criminal in front of everyone. I need proof of where every dollar came from, Miriam said, or I'll have to report you for suspicious money. You understand, right? She knew Samuel's visa had problems. She was threatening him. I couldn't watch anymore. But before I could say anything, Mr. Ashford stood up from his chair in the corner. That's enough. Miriam turned around, surprised. What? Mr. Ashford's voice stayed soft but now had steel in it. I said that's enough. Give him back his money. Right now. Miriam walked toward Mr. Ashford. Her face turned red with anger. You need to mind your own business, Mr. Ashford. This is legitimate landlord business. This is extortion. He didn't raise his voice at all. Give the money back now, or I'll make a phone call you won't like. Who do you think you are? Miriam's hands were shaking. From anger or fear I couldn't tell. I'll throw you out right now. I'll call the police on you. Mr. Ashford pulled out his cell phone. Please do. I really want to talk to them too. They stared at each other. The whole room held its breath. The silence was so heavy I could hear my heartbeat. Finally, Miriam shoved the money at Samuel and ran upstairs. We heard her door slam hard. We all stared at Mr. Ashford. Who was this man? What power did he have? He just sat back down in his chair and kept reading his newspaper. Like nothing happened. That night I heard Miriam on the phone through her door. Uncle Dennis. I need you here tomorrow. I have a problem tenant. Bring your badge. Her voice sounded scared. I'd never heard her sound scared before. Dennis Cade showed up at 9 o'clock sharp the next morning. He was around 45 years old, carrying a leather briefcase. He wore a city housing inspector badge on his belt. Surprise inspection, he announced to all of us in the common room. Miriam stood next to him, smiling big. Dennis walked through the building like a hunter looking for prey. He found problems everywhere. He took photos of electrical outlets. He measured things. He scraped the walls. Exposed wires here. Mold here. Fire safety problems everywhere. I should shut this whole building down right now. My chest felt tight. Where would we go if he shut down the building? Dennis called us all back to the common room. I have the power to kick everyone out immediately. This building is unsafe. He stopped talking and looked at each of us. But I can ignore these problems. For a fee. $500 per person. By the end of the week. That's a crime, I said. You're stealing from us. Dennis's face got hard. He opened his briefcase and pulled out files. One for each of us. You want to argue with me, Marcus Rivera? Breaking parole rules could send you back to prison. Want to risk it? Dennis went after each person's weak spot. He knew everything about us. He turned to Priya. Your visa expired 2 months ago, didn't it, Ms. Sharma? Immigration would love to know about this. To Samuel. Your work permit has problems. Does your boss know about these problems? To David. Parole says you need stable housing. Getting kicked out means you automatically go back to prison. Miriam gave him all our files. Our secrets. Our fears. This wasn't just one corrupt inspector. This was a whole system designed to trap us and steal from us. $500 each, Dennis said again. Cash. By Friday. Or I'll start eviction papers and call immigration, police, parole officers. Whoever I need to call for each of you. We sat there frozen. This wasn't just Miriam being cruel anymore. This was the government itself being corrupt. The whole system working against us. Mr. Ashford stood up slowly. Excuse me. I need to make a phone call. Dennis laughed in a mean way. Call anyone you want, old man. I am the housing authority in this whole area. Nobody has more power than me. Mr. Ashford walked out without saying anything. Miriam smiled like she'd won a big victory. She beat us. Again. Mr. Ashford came back 20 minutes later. Dennis was now demanding we give him money right away. Whoever had any. He'd count it there, give us receipts, and the rest of us had until Friday. Everyone show me your cash now, Dennis yelled. Empty your pockets. Right now. This was total humiliation. Samuel slowly pulled out his last $200. Yuki got $40 from her room. David had $70. Dennis was counting Samuel's money when the front door opened. 3 people in dark suits walked in. They were holding badges. Real government badges. Federal badges. The woman in front spoke in a clear, strong voice. Dennis Cade, you're under arrest for extortion, fraud, and corruption. Dennis's face turned white as paper. What? Who are you people? 2 agents grabbed his arms. The woman read him his rights while Dennis made confused, scared noises. I turned to look at Mr. Ashford standing in the doorway. Everything about him was different now. He wasn't hunched over anymore. He wasn't a helpless old man. He stood straight and tall with absolute authority. Miriam backed up against the wall. Her keys fell from her shaking hands and hit the floor with a loud crash. Mr. Ashford stepped forward. When he spoke now, his voice was completely different. It was the voice of someone with real power. My name is Ashford Thorne. I'm a federal judge. I retired temporarily because of health problems. For the past 2 weeks, I've been working undercover with a federal task force. We're investigating housing fraud, elder abuse, and human trafficking through housing schemes. My brain couldn't process it. Federal. Undercover. All this time. Judge Thorne pulled a small recording device from his pocket. Everything said in this room for the past hour is recorded. Dennis, your extortion was witnessed by federal agents. Miriam, your systematic abuse and illegal imprisonment of tenants has been documented for weeks. Dennis tried to talk, but agents pushed him toward the door in handcuffs. Judge Thorne turned to Miriam. You have keys that belong to these people. Documents. Personal property. We're getting all of it back now. He looked at the agents. We have a search warrant for the office and all locked storage areas. Miriam's legs couldn't hold her anymore. She collapsed into a chair, staring at nothing. With agents watching, Miriam had to unlock everything. Every cabinet, every safe, every drawer in her office. Documents poured out like water. Passports appeared from a locked box, including Priya's. IDs, social security cards, medical records, birth certificates. Everything she stole from us. Legal papers with forged signatures. Lease agreements that didn't match what we actually signed. Notebooks full of fake fines and fake violations. Years and years of fraud. Each of us got our documents back. Samuel held his daughter's medical records and cried. Priya clutched her passport like it was made of gold. Yuki's wedding ring came out of Miriam's desk drawer. She put it back on the chain around her neck. Her hands were shaking so bad. An agent reached the bottom of a filing cabinet. Judge Thorne, you need to see this. He pulled out a thick folder. The label said, James Whalen, deceased. Judge Thorne opened it carefully. His face got dark as he read. Cause of death, heart attack. Location, Greystone Boarding House. Date, August 14th. Time, about 2:30 in the morning. Miriam made a sound like a dying animal. Judge Thorne spread papers across Miriam's desk. We all gathered around to see. Miriam Cade has run this scheme for 12 years. 47 tenants have lived here and been abused. She collected $340,000 in fake fees. He looked at each of us. You're not the first victims. You wouldn't have been the last. He explained how the task force tracked a whole network of corrupt landlords and inspectors across 3 states. Dennis did fake inspections at 6 other buildings, collecting thousands in bribes. They targeted specific people: immigrants, ex-convicts, domestic violence survivors, anyone with complications that made them unable to report abuse. Judge Thorne's voice got softer. My sister Eleanor died in a boarding house fire in Delaware 2 years ago. Locked doors. She couldn't escape. The landlord was never punished. I couldn't save my sister, but I could volunteer for this investigation. An agent spoke up. What about James Whalen? Judge Thorne closed the folder. That's now a manslaughter investigation. Mr. Whalen had a fatal heart attack while locked inside this building. There's a 911 call from a neighbor who heard screaming. Miriam Cade never opened the doors. Miriam started crying. Agents took Dennis and Miriam to separate rooms. Dennis broke down fast within an hour. Through the office door we heard him offering everything. Names of other landlords doing the same thing. Corrupt inspectors in 4 cities. Fake city records. He tried to say he was Miriam's victim too, forced to help her. She threatened me, Dennis said. She's my aunt, she had power over my family. I didn't want to do this. The agents didn't believe him. He was only cooperating because he was scared, not because he was sorry. Miriam sat quiet in the common room with an agent watching her. She wasn't fighting anymore, she was broken. She stared at her keys, now in a plastic evidence bag on the table. Finally an agent asked the question we all needed answered. Miss Cade, did you know James Whalen was having a heart attack? The silence lasted a full minute. Maybe more. I heard him, Miriam whispered. He was screaming for help, pounding on his door, calling my name. I heard everything. Long pause. I didn't open the door. I just let him die. Judge Thorne walked into the room. Everyone else needs to leave. I have to talk to Ms. Cade alone. I stayed in the hallway where I could hear through the partially open door. I couldn't help myself. Judge Thorne sat down across from Miriam. He put a photograph on the table. A woman in her 60s with kind eyes and gray hair. This is my sister, Eleanor Thorne. She died in a boarding house fire in Delaware. Locked doors. Barred windows. 6 people died that night. The landlord said it was an accident, that the locked doors were to stop theft. His voice was steady but full of pain. Eleanor was 68 years old. She burned alive because someone valued control over human life. Miriam looked at the photograph. Her hard mask finally broke completely. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring justice. But I need to understand something. Why? Judge Thorne leaned forward. You're a smart woman. You knew what you were doing. You knew the pain you caused. So why did you do it? Miriam's hands shook violently. She wrapped her arms around herself like she was freezing. Because, she whispered, someone did it to me first. And when I got the chance to be different, I chose power instead. 'Cause nobody ever saved me. Nobody ever came. Miriam's confession poured out like poison from a wound. 40 years ago, I came to America from Poland. I was 23 alone. My English was terrible. I ended up in a boarding house in Chicago. A woman named Mrs. Voss owned it. Her voice sounded empty, telling a story buried for decades. Mrs. Voss did everything I did here. Locked doors every night. Stole documents. Created fake debts. I lived there 7 years, trying to save enough money to leave. I got pregnant once, her voice cracked. I lost my baby because I couldn't get to a hospital. The doors were locked. I screamed for 3 hours. Nobody came. Tears ran down her face. Mrs. Voss eventually made me her assistant. She taught me every trick, every way to control people. She said I understood the tenants better because I used to be one. She was training me to replace her. Miriam laughed, but it sounded like crying. When she died, she left me this building. I promised myself I'd be different. I'd be kind. What happened? Judge Thorne asked quietly. The first time a tenant argued with me, I felt that old fear again, the terror of being powerless. So I locked the doors. And it felt safe. Felt like I finally had control. So I kept doing it. Judge Thorne arranged for all of us to meet Miriam one final time before her trial. Supervised. In the common room with agents watching. Miriam faced us. She looked 20 years older than the woman who terrorized us just days ago. I won't make excuses, she began. I knew exactly what I was doing. I remembered every second of being trapped, powerless and afraid. And I deliberately created that same suffering for you. She looked at each of us. Yuki, I stole your ring knowing it was all you had from your dead husband. Samuel, I humiliated you in public knowing you're a proud man who works hard. Priya, I held your passport knowing you were running from violence. Her voice broke. James Whalen died calling for help. I heard him. I knew he was dying. I chose my control over his life. I'm a murderer. I killed him. We sat in heavy silence. Yuki cried softly. Samuel's jaw was clenched tight. Priya asked, Did you ever feel sorry while you were doing it to us? No, Miriam admitted. I felt safe, in control, powerful. Judge Thorne spoke. Miriam will face criminal charges. But she's agreed to transfer this building's ownership. The question is, to whom? We all looked at each other. Was this real? 2 months later, I stood outside the gray stone boarding house at dawn. Everything changed. We now owned the property. All the tenants together. We held all the keys. Every outside door stayed unlocked permanently. We installed fire exits everywhere. We fixed the heating system. We created fair, honest rent rules. Miriam was waiting for trial. 5 to 8 years for manslaughter, fraud, and elder abuse. Dennis made a deal with prosecutors. 12 years in prison. The task force destroyed the whole corrupt network. Elena came back with her baby girl. Tiny, perfect, and alive because I broke that window. Yuki wore her wedding ring again. Samuel's daughter had her medicine. Priya was teaching English to new residents who needed help. Judge Thorne visited one last time. He walked through the house, seeing light where darkness used to be. He left his leather notebook on the common room table. All his notes and evidence, now a record for our community to keep. The front door he stopped. We installed a new sign. No one locks these doors. No one ever will again. As he walked away into the morning light, Yuki asked, Who was he really? I watched him disappear down the street. He was what shows up when cruelty mistakes patience for weakness. The gray stone boarding house became famous in our neighborhood, the place where justice came quietly, and mercy showed no tolerance for tyranny. We melted down Miriam's old keyring and made it into a small bronze sign at the entrance. Built on freedom, maintained by compassion, protected by memory. Every door stays open now. Every light stays on. And every morning teaches the same lesson. Power without mercy will always meet mercy with power. The locked door that traps innocent people will eventually trap the guilty. Justice doesn't need a key. Only patience and truth.